efficace di questa mattinata che abbiamo vissuto insieme di Shift, chiamerei on stage, si dice che il dolce sta in fondo, Richard Gadd, che è il Senior Vice President EMEA di Commvault. Andiamo Richard, eccolo. Hi Richard, thank you so much for your time. The stage is for you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us here at the Milan SHIFT event. I've been asked just to spend 10 minutes, and I do feel under a little bit of pressure now to make this quite a quick sort of wrap up. But I've been asked just to say a few words about what we've heard and a couple of the key themes that I hope that you'll take away with you as you leave this event. But I want to start firstly by just saying a massive thank you and well done to Sabrina, to Vincenzo, to Mauro for hosting and organizing such an extraordinary event at such an incredible venue. I always said, I wanted to be on the big screen and I wanted to appear like this. This isn't quite what I had in mind. So look, there's a couple of other things I want to mention. I want to talk about the importance, the strategic and commercial importance of the Italian market. Vincenzo leads one of our highest performing sales regions, not just in Europe, but anywhere in the world. And this is because he has built a culture that's born out of customer obsession and deep partner relationships. And as a consequence of the success, it means that I'm able to continue to invest behind that success. And that investment in our Italian business, I guess in the context of today, means two things. Firstly, it means that we invest in Italian-speaking resources, which means we've gone for a whole day today, and mine is the first English-speaking segment and the only English-speaking segment. Probably pretty good for you, less good for me, but luckily I have had a translation in my ears. So I've been able to enjoy all of the content that we've heard during the course of today. The second thing that it means is that we listen to what's going on in the Italian market. So I have a customer advisory board in London next week where we have all of our executives attending. The best represented country in EMEA by far are our Italian customers, which means that we continue to build our proposition with this very specific market in mind. So let me give you a couple of very quick examples. I'm delighted, for example, to announce that we've recently achieved the ACN accreditation granted by, and I was interested to see one of the panelists coming from the National Cybersecurity Council. And this means that we had to meet some very stringent requirements relating to security, data protection, and regulatory compliance, which means that our Italian public sector customers can rest assured that they're in very, very safe hands. And the second thing, and actually you heard one of the panelists discuss it just a few moments ago, the second thing that we're hearing from our Italian market, and I think across Europe, is the deep concern that they're seeing in that geopolitical climate worldwide that's creating a much greater need and an acceleration for the need of for digital sovereignty. So with that in mind, and very specifically for the European customers, we've created, and we announced, I think, 2 weeks ago, very publicly, GeoShield, which is our first digital sovereignty offering. Now, GeoShield is going to operate in multiple layers depending on the required level of sovereignty by country, by customer, and even by workload. And the second point I want to make is that this will be delivered with and through our ecosystem of partners. Now, we didn't get a chance, because this is really hot off the press, we didn't get a chance to speak deeply about what GeoShield means in this particular market. We haven't got a slide deck prepared, but you will over the next weeks and months hear an awful lot more about that. But on the point of partners, I just want to make one very quick observation, and I want to say thank you to the sponsors And I want to say thank you for the partners who have attended today, because we are a partner-first organization. I believe we can deliver better cyber resilient solutions with our partners. We have one particular partner, just to give you a flavor of what I mean. We have one particular partner who defines cyber resilience in a 7-stage process, starting with advisory, helping our customers create that sort of minimum viable company, and finishing with implementation, ongoing management and support. Now, we come in at number 5. Now, that's critical because that's all about recovery, but we occupy one space in a 7-stage process. And I hope that gives you a flavor of why we need partners to be able to deliver better cyber resilient solutions to our customers. So let's talk a little bit about what we've heard today. So there are 2 themes that we've discussed continuously that are not just dominating the IT landscape, but they're dominating the business landscape. So of course I'm talking about the massive and increasing threat and impact of cybercrime, coupled with and compounded by the widespread adoption of AI. And to give you a flavor of the impact that that's had on our business, you know, we launched our first cyber resilience platform back in November 2023. And since then, we've reported the best 10 quarters in our 30-year history. This has been the strongest and most sustained period of growth for our organization. Let me just touch on a couple of the highlights from the numbers that we've just announced coming off the back of our Q3, which finished at the end of this calendar year. Total Q3 revenue was $314 million. That was the strongest quarter ever, representing 19% growth on what was a very robust quarter this time last year. ARR exceeded $1 billion. That was 22% growth on this time last year. We achieved the rule of 40, which is the golden standard that defines a company's balance between profitability and growth. Now, this is an important point because a lot of our competitors are either not listed or they're listed in a way that you can see that they have the growth but without the profitability. And finally, subscription revenue grew by 30%. Now, this is our future. And in fact, we attracted 700 new subscription customers in Q3 alone. I joke actually that sometimes it feels as though it took us 30 years to become an overnight success. So why are we seeing this growth? Well, I'm going to be quite clear. About 80 or 90% of our business is either being driven by, or it's a significant contribution to why a customer is delivering a project. 90% of our business has come from the very real and growing threat of cybercrime. You heard from Mauro earlier, where he described how cybercrime was now costing the global economy $15 trillion. And when you think about that in the context, as he said, of GDP, that makes cybercrime the 3rd largest economy worldwide. That's the scale of the challenge. And look, I mean, I don't want to go into a huge amount of detail, but I'm going to use a couple of examples from the UK, close to home. First one was a UK retailer, Marks and Spencer. It took them 46 days to recover. It cost them £350 million in lost operating profit and untold reputational damage. And then we had Jaguar Land Rover. They were attacked to the point at which they couldn't even continue to operate. Ultimately, this culminated in a £1.5 billion payout from the UK government just to keep them operational and solvent. And it's estimated that that attack cost the UK economy a massive £2.5 billion. So if you think about this from a CEO perspective, CEOs across every industry are now looking at those type of high-profile attacks, and there's at least a dozen in every region, in every country. They're looking at those high-profile attacks, and they're saying, well, I don't want to be the chief executive of the next Marks and Spencer. I don't want to see the business impact and be the CEO of the next Jaguar Land Rover. So all of a sudden, this is becoming a CEO and board-level priority. So what we're seeing in our business is an awful lot more top-down driven projects, a huge amount more urgency, and even new budgets being made available as companies scramble to become more cyber resilient. So why is Commvault so relevant to all this? Well, I hope you heard a lot of that today. In many ways, the markets come to us. And I think you heard it on multiple occasions. You know, the breach is inevitable. We talk about it's not a case of if, but when. I'd argue that it's not a case of when, but how many times. Which means that the focus of every organization and the starting assumption is that you will get breached. So now it's all become about how do we get ready for that breach? And even more importantly, how do we recover following a breach? But even more than that, it's about how do I recover to a position at which I can continue to be operational and quickly return to revenue-generating activities. And of course, all of this is compounded by the second theme that you heard during the course of today's presentations. Because it's compounded by the widespread adoption of AI. You heard from Mauro earlier. Big tech has poured $400 billion into AI infrastructure. Because this has become a CEO, again, another CEO and board level priority. At best, they want to leverage AI in order to gain competitive advantage. At the very least, they want to make sure that they keep up with the rapid pace of change. So I think it's fair to say, and you've heard during the course of today's presentations, that AI is creating opportunities and challenges in roughly equal proportion. Generative and agentic AI is creating an unprecedented volume, but also variety of data, all of which needs to be managed and protected at massive scale. And it's also creating new attack vectors. The bad actors are leveraging AI in order to breach your defenses and to access your data. And all of these things have come together to force Commvault to think differently about how we protect and recover your data and how we think about resilience in the context of AI. Every year we come to these events and we really try to up the ante. We really try to move our organization forward in a way that aligns with our customers' most pressing challenges and opportunities. And I hope what you've seen today is that the shift we've made this time round is the biggest shift we've ever made. Our chief executive stood on stage, and Mauro reiterated earlier, that this is the biggest announcement that we've made in our 30-year history. So the point I want to leave you with is that Commvault Cloud Unity is not just another platform. It's how we bring every deployment model, cloud, SaaS, on-prem, edge, together under a single intelligent pane of glass. And that's how we integrate every layer of cyber resilience, security, identity, and recovery into one experience. And that's why we believe that Commvault Cloud Unity is transformational. Thank you so much for your time today.